Very well, councillors. It's now 5 p.m. I'll declare our meeting open and also welcome members of the public in the gallery and the staff at this meeting. The Shire of York acknowledges the Ballardong people of the Noongar Nation who are the traditional owners of the country on which this meeting is being held, and we recognise their continuing connection to land, water, sky and culture. We pay our respects to all these people and their elders past, present and emerging. In accordance with Regulation 14I and 14J of the Local Government Administration Regulations 1996, notice is given that this meeting is being video and audio recorded to facilitate community participation and for minute-taking purposes. By being present at the meeting, members of the public consent to the possibility that their image and voice may be recorded. Audio recording are publicised or published on the Shire's website following the meeting and may be released upon request to third parties. Members of the public are reminded that in accordance with Section 6.16 of the Shire of York Local Government Council Meetings, Local Law 2016, nobody shall use any visual or vocal recording device or instrument to record the proceedings of the council without the written permission of the presiding member. I wish to draw to attention to the disclosure notice contained within the agenda document and advise members of the public that any decision made at the meeting today can be revoked in accordance with Regulation 10 of the Local Government Administration Regulations 1996. Therefore, members of the public should not rely on any decision until formal notification in writing from the Shire has been received. Any plans and documents in agenda and minutes may be subject to copyright. The express permission of the copyright owner must be retained before copying any copyright material. There's no change to standing orders. We have no visitors. Declarations of proximity interest. I have none of those have come to my attention. Declarations of financial interest, none. Declarations of impartiality, I have two myself. SY 027 of 0325, multi-year funding acquittal, the York Motor Show, and myself, SY 028 of 0325, the request for a multi-year funding agreement, York Motor Show. In attendance, we have myself, Councillor Kevin Trent, Shire President, Councillor Dennis Warnick, our Deputy Shire President, Councillor Chris Gibbs, Councillor Kevin Pike, Councillor Denise Smythe, and Councillor Wright has tendered his apology as he cannot make electronic contact. So we could remove his name from there, please. And amongst the staff, we have Mr. Lyndon Mellor, Acting CEO, Ms. Alina Behan, the Executive Manager of Corporate and Community Services, Ms. Rebecca Palumbo, Acting Executive Manager, Infrastructure and Development Services, and Ms. Paula Armstrong, the Executive Support and Safety Officer. We have apologies from Councillor Peter Wright. Leave of absence previously approved with the CEO, who's on leave, Mr. Chris Linnell, from the 10th of March to the 7th of July inclusive, and Ms. Vanessa Green, our Council and Executive Support Officer. Number of people in the gallery. How many are we? 2, 4, 6, 8, 11. Questions from the previous meeting. Response to previous questions taken on notice, there were nil. Response to unasked questions from the previous meeting, there were nil. And I'll now open public question time. In the past, we would ask you to give your name and address. As a result of a check of regulations, we find we do not need your address. So, who is first? No one. Okay, I'll shut question time. Written questions, if you've got any. Hasn't come through yet? Okay. You may ask your question, please.
Karen Thomas, representing the York Business Association. The butcher's shop in Pingelly is for sale, and the Shire have offered $20,000 for a purchaser who buys it and keeps it operating weekdays and Saturday mornings, plus a few other conditions. If the YBA could formulate and promote a plan to encourage new businesses to come to York, would consideration be given to something similar in the way of an incentive for both new businesses and businesses being sold? The Pingelly Shire CEO was heard to comment, having occupied shops on the main street is very important for a thriving town.
Thank you. At the moment, I don't think we have a requirement for any new businesses. As for the butcher shop, that's being sorted out amongst the parties. And I think most people can get most of their supplies from the IGA. But it's certainly worth a thought. I don't know whether the council would consider making as the Pingelly Shire have done, an advancement to a business to come into town. Anyone want to... CEO?
Thank you. I'll hand over to the Executive Manager of Corporate and Community Services.
So through the CEO, we don't have a strategy on that yet, but we are looking for funding for a tourism and economic development strategy. And part of that, we're going to do a gap analysis to work out how we need to support businesses, what we're missing, and what initiatives the council might consider to assist in that space. So that would certainly be something we would consider along with that, and we would obviously be seeking the business community's input to that as well. So the plan is to do that piece of work next year.
Next person to ask a question. Mr. CEO.
So there is a limit on public question time, and the current procedure is that that clock continues. Obviously, through council, that time frame can be extended based on individual circumstances. So at the current stage, that is our process. I guess it was part of our standing orders, and that could be considered further if that's an ongoing issue.
Next person to ask a question. If we could ask someone else to ask a question, then come back, please, Karen. Is that... The microphone's not working, so... Mr. CEO?
I don't believe that council's had any other exemptions than any other member of the public. Council's certainly had to abide by the McGowan government's requirements for certain facilities and access to personnel for that. I guess my understanding is that no, councillors did not have any other exemptions to anyone else. I will, through the chair, I'm going to hand over to the Executive Manager of Corporate and Community Services.
Sorry, just because I was here at the time, there were no exemptions granted. There were no requirements for anyone on staff or on council to receive vaccinations. They were able to make their own choices. The only things that we did do was when there was a mandate from the state government, we would redeploy people into areas that they weren't required to have a vaccination if they declared that they didn't wish to be. So that's how we supported it.
Someone else want a question? One at a time, please.
In the vote agenda to request to attend the BP 433010 young and aged rate pet collection. It states the preferred option is to accept McLeod's lawyer. Will this mean evicting people from their home properties? Surely there are other avenues to take before employing a lawyer for 3 years or more, and how much is said lawyer going to cost the people of York?
Mr CEO, we've yet to debate this, but you can answer the question.
So rates debt collection isn't individually evicting members of the public. It's actually collecting outstanding charges on rates that the Shire has. But what I'll hand over to the Executive Manager of Corporate Community Services to elaborate.
So I guess it's quite a lengthy answer because there was a number of questions in there, but the preferred candidate is McLeod, the respondent is McLeod's in that one. The lawyers all offer a similar service. So you've mentioned eviction. The sale of a property is one mechanism that the local government can use to collect outstanding rates. It is one that has been used where many other mechanisms have failed. So there is a process that happens before that, and several steps are taken to ensure that the property owner can address that. But it is something that can actually occur. It would be brought to council as it has in the past for permission to proceed on that one. But it's the very last step in a very long process, and it only happens to long-standing, outstanding rates.
Mr CEO, can you enlighten us?
Yes, through the Local Government Act, our band. Sorry, can everybody hear me all right? Through under Local Government Act, our band of local government, there's only a requirement for us to record the audio of meetings. We're not required to record the video side. So at this stage, that's what we've been doing. In terms of the editing of individual recordings, there may be times where we reduce when there's been silence or other things, but I'm not aware of that individual circumstance, and I'll take that on notice to review that individual recording. I'd probably respond to that as well. So councillors are only recorded when their mic's on, so and when they're I guess called to be talking. And so, if individual councillors are having conversations outside of the normal, I guess, debate.
Anyone else have any questions? Mrs. Fero?
Yes, Jane Farrell. Has the council thought about what they will say to the community when residents become aware that 4 councillors voted to do nothing to inform them of the risks of taking further COVID injections, including severe adverse reactions and death, and those 4 votes stop any further efforts to provide informed consent by health providers who service here?
Mr. CEO?
I guess it's difficult to respond on behalf of council, but I guess this matter has been put through council. Council's made a decision on it, and that is the current decision. So I guess I can't provide any more.
I know that's the decision. I'm talking about the future when people find out what happened here.
Unfortunately, that's been the decision made by council, and I guess I can't speak on individual circumstances that may arise in the future.
And I would imagine that when you went to see your doctor who was going to give you the injection, that he would inform you.
There is no informed consent. There is none provided by the manufacturers of the jabs.
Okay. Shall we move on? No more questions? One more.
Sean Hilder again. In the addendum SY030-0325 added to the meeting for March 25th, 2025, item 1K, CEO to transfer $19,196 from long-service leave reserve to general operation fund. My question, where will funds come from if an employee requests to have long-service leave, and therefore will there need to be a transfer from the general operations fund back to the long-service leave reserve?
Mr. CEO?
So that transfer is actually to provide for a staff member taking long service leave and those provisions. So it's actually, we're not reducing that amount. It's actually applicable to what's required for a staff member now. But I might hand to the Executive Manager of Corporate and Community to elaborate.
Thank you, through the Chair. Just to add a bit more detail to that. So every year we put money into our long service leave reserve, and it's only withdrawn when someone actually requests leave. Normally we do it at the end of the year, but this year we've had some people either retiring or leaving on, and then we need to pay them out that. So that reserve is specifically kept so that we fund that and it doesn't go through our general operating, but we do need to take it out to pay it on.
Thank you very much. That's the end of public question time. If you can wait till the next council meeting, please. I'll declare public question time closed. Application for leave of absence, nil. Petitions, nil. Presentations, nil. Deputations. Deputation from Jennifer Blasgun.
Good afternoon, Mr. President, councillors, and the public. I'd like to bring to your attention an email that I've sent to the Ombudsman, the CCC, the Honourable Roger Cook, Honourable Hannah Beasley, the Minister for Local Government, and a whole heap of other ministers. Also the Local Government Standards Panel, and the overseer of the local Yorkshire and Devonshire in Western Australia. So every governmental body has been notified via this email of what is going on here at Yorkshire. So I'm going to read this email to you. I won't go through this which are widely recognised for promoting unsubstantiated and harmful conspiracy theories. Conspiracy theories. Unsubstantiated conspiracy theories. A prime example is the submission of the documents from the Rumble website, which has been flagged by the Australian government as a platform that spreads dangerous misinformation. I don't know if you're aware, but there is a government website where you can go and you can check any website to see if it is on the Australian government's watch list. Rumble is one of them. It is on the Australian government's watch list, along with QAnon, along with Quest for Help, along with all these so-called legitimate websites that have been submitted to Wiltshire as legitimate factual evidence, which is not, unfortunately. It's all lies, it's all conspiracy theories. A prime example, as I said, is the Rumble website. Such acceptance of such content as factual within official council meetings is a grave lapse in judgment. Unbelievable that you don't have a process, a protocol, anything for fact-checking information that you record as being truthful and then disseminate to the ratepayers as being truthful. Acceptance of such content as factual within official council meeting is a grave lapse in judgment and contravenes the principles of good governance as set forth in the Local Government Act of 1995. Come on. You're breaking the law. As a council, you are not following the rules that you are meant to follow. Not only that, the inclusion of unverified claims in council minutes represents an irresponsible allocation of ratepayer funds and valuable council time. Do you think we want you wasting your valuable time on listening to this rubbish? Honestly, it is essential that the Yorkshire Council ensures that the meetings focus on legitimate, evidence-based issues rather than wasting resources on debunked, harmful information. Please, go onto your government website and check. Check this information and you will find out that it is non-factual. It is all conspiracy theory driven, hate-spreading speech, fear-mongering. The allocation of public funds and council time should be dedicated to discussions that support the welfare and the safety of the community. The sheer disregard for government warnings. Doesn't anyone check facts for this council? Seriously. If you need to employ someone to check the facts, do so. Because it saves embarrassment later on. And I'll tell you, the embarrassment that you guys are facing over accepting this misinformation, these websites that are listed on the Australian government websites that tell you not to accept this information as factual, that they are dangerous, spreading misinformation. Everything should be fact-checked before it's accepted into the council and recorded as fact, because most of it isn't. So the acceptance of submissions from discredited sources, despite explicit warnings from the Australian government, further exacerbates these concerns. The Rumble website in particular has been flagged for promoting unproven, dangerous conspiracy theories, especially concerning COVID-19. It is imperative that the Yorkshire not only considers the legitimacy of the sources, but also adheres to the Australian government's guidelines to safeguard public health and safety. I request the following action. In the light of these concerns, I respectfully request the following actions. A formal review of council procedures to ensure meeting notes. And then that information being disseminated, non-factual information being disseminated via the York Council minutes to the public.
Well,
This contravenes the Australian government's directives.
well, thank you very much. Your 10 minutes has expired,
Thank you, sir.
and thank you for your submission. Does the councillor have any questions of Mrs. Blascombe? Councillor Gibbs?
Yes, thank you for your deputation. Very, very detailed and very well articulated. My understanding regarding the minutes of a council meeting is that we're supposed to record what happens during the meeting. I'm wondering what your take is on, because we have questions from the floor during a council meeting, our role is to record what happened accurately. I'm not sure how fact-checking a question that we don't know is coming is even possible without restraining the voice of our ratepayers. What's your take on that?
I was of the understanding that you had to provide the questions to council prior to the meeting, at least 24 hours prior to the meeting, as well as any documents or evidence that you were going to provide to support your claims is to be provided to council. If you do not have such procedures in place, then perhaps it's time that you look at putting some in place. You need procedures put in place to ensure that, okay, if you're going to come to question time, then you must submit your question 3 days prior to the council. That's a fair thing. 7 days prior to the council. Give you time to respond. That's a fair thing. 7 days. 7 days to be able to fact check the evidence is also required to go into the submission of the question or any other thing for the council. If you give the public the opportunity to supply this prior, then it also prepares you to be able to answer and give your side of whatever it is that's being presented to you. You have fair warning, you're able to respond to the question at the time, and you have factual evidence in front of you. Or you have evidence that's been fact-checked by your council.
Thank you.
Whether you're dealing with facts or not.
Councillor Gibbs, does that answer your question? Thank you. Any further questions? Councillor Gibbs?
Would you mind expanding? Thank you. Would you mind expanding, please, on what you mean by the council accepting these reports? When people do a deputation or when people have a question during question time, I believe there's a very specific delineation between us listening to what is happening and accepting that. So I'm not sure whether the importance of the fact-checking comes into it, because you seem to be suggesting that we're disseminating things that aren't factual.
So I'll refer to the council April last year, ordinary council meeting in April last year. There was submissions made to the council of COVID-19 unfactual claims that was then included in the minutes. And that's scary. So please look up the minutes from last April and you'll see that. And guys, what are you doing?
Any further questions, councillor?
I just have one more question. I just want to clarify that, because I understand exactly what you're saying. Thank you. But again, the purpose of the minutes is to record what happens during the meeting. You seem to be making a connection between what happens during the meeting and us accepting things as fact, which are two different things entirely.
So if you were to put procedures in place to have information brought to you prior to the meeting, then you know that you're facing at the moment, you don't, so you can only respond and listen to questions that are put to you. I understand that there is a difference between submitting information to you prior or during and someone standing here and free speaking. And I know there's a difference in that. What I'm talking about is some misinformation definitely April last year, there were minutes where these particular QAnon websites were put into the council meeting and accepted as factual truth. And the QAnon website is also on the Australian government's watch list.
Okay, I think we'll draw a close to it now, and you can carry on your discussion.
I only have one more question. Thank you. My final question is that if that were to be something that were to go ahead, it would need to be across the board. Are you in support of an idea that no question can be asked at a council meeting until the council and the Shire administration fact checks it, no matter what the subject is? You're in support of that?
Okay,
To the Shire should be fact-checked, everything.
Thank you.
that's sufficient, and I'm certain the officers will pay attention to that. It's something which would have to go across the whole of local government, across every shire, whether it be in Wyndham all the way down to the city of Perth. I'll move on to delegates' reports. Councillor Smythe has listed what she's been up to in the last month. Confirmation of the minutes of the previous meetings. Recommendations. The recommendation is there. Do we have someone prepared to move? Councillor Gibbs.
Councillor Gibbs moves.
Councillor Smythe seconds.
Councillor Smythe seconds.
Any questions? None. All those in favour? That's carried. Councillor Wright, you're in the meeting now, are you? Thank you. It's carried 6-0. Announcements by the presiding member without discussion. There's a list of the meetings that I have attended. The first item is SY 025 of 0325, Community Grant Funding Acquittal, the York Family Playgroup. Paint York Reid.
Councillor Warnick moves.
Councillor Warnick moves.
Councillor Gibbs seconds.
Councillor Gibbs seconds. Any questions, councillors? None? Then I'll put the recommendation to now the motion. All in favour? That's carried 6-0. SY 026 of 0325, Community Grant Funding Acquittal, the York Wildflower Society. There's a recommendation there. We have a mover, Councillor Smythe.
Councillor Smythe moves.
Councillor Gibbs seconds.
And no one's got any questions, I take it. So I'll put that recommendation. That's now the motion. All in favour? It's carried 6-0. We now move on to SY 027 of 0325, Multi-Year Funding Acquittal, York Motor Show. And I will register my partiality declaration regarding the multi-year funding acquittal for the York Motor Show, the matter being SY 027 of 0325. I disclose I have an association with the applicant. The association is that I am a member of the the Veteran Car Club of York, York branch, the organisation who are organising the York Motor Show. As a consequence, there may be a perception my impartiality on the matter may be affected. I declare that I will consider the matter on its merits and vote accordingly. Mr. CEO. Has anyone any questions on this item? No questions? Someone prepared to move?
Councillor Gibbs moves.
Councillor Gibbs moves. Councillor Pike seconds.
Councillor Pike seconds.
I'll put the recommendation, which is now the motion. All in favour? It's carried 6-0. The next item is SY 028 of 0325, a request to vary the multi-year funding agreement for the York Motor Show. And I will disclose that I have an impartial interest in this activity. With regard to the request for the multi-year funding agreement, the York Motor Show, the matter item SY 028 of 0325, I disclose that I have an association with the applicant. The association is that I am a member of the Veteran Car Club of WA York Branch, the organisation of the York who organised the York Motor Show. As a consequence, there may be a perception that my impartiality on the matter may be affected. I declare that I will consider this matter on its merits and vote accordingly. CEO, do we have someone to move?
I'm happy to move the
Councillor
recommendation.
Smythe moves as recommended.
Councillor Gibbs, seconds.
Any questions, councillors? None? I'll put the motion then. All in favour? It's carried 6-0. Thank you, Councillor Wright. We see you clearly. The next item is the policy review of SY 029 of 0325, the policy review, funding grants and sponsorship. An addendum has been attached,
I have a question.
which is incorporated within the recommendation. You have a question? Yes.
Yeah, Councillor Gibbs has a question. In the new policy C8, I just wanted to get a little bit of clarification because in provisions under funding categories 1.1, there's support for individuals between $200 and $500, but then because we've amalgamated a few different policies here, the general eligibility criteria is to be a legal entity. So we don't seem to have made an allowance for the fact that there's one category where you don't have to be a legal entity. Is that something that we need to adjust?
Mr CEO?
Through the Chair, I'll hand to the Executive Manager of Corporate and Community Services.
We could for absolute clarity, but it is in the guidelines that that requirement is not for that one. And also, as we now have an online form where you would actually do that, and as you tick that criteria, then that eligibility requirement isn't there. So if Council would like us to make the adjustment, that's a very simple one.
Thank you.
Any further questions, councillors? Is someone prepared to move the recommendation? Councillor Smythe?
I'd like to move the recommendation.
Councillor Gibbs, you're seconding.
Councillor Gibbs, seconds.
Councillors, I'll put the motion then. All in favour? It's carried 6-0. SY 030, SY 0325, the minutes and recommendations of the Audit and Risk Committee.
Councillor Warnick moves.
Councillor... Okay. Councillor Smythe, would you ask a question,
Councillor
please?
Smythe has a question. My question is, can the audit plan be presented in an improved format, because it is very hard to read because it's so small, because it's in an Excel spreadsheet, I think. So in future, can that be improved?
Mr CEO, can you throw any light on this matter?
Yes, in the future we will look at how we can display that better on agendas. Obviously it's come out that way because it's a document with inside a document, so we will look at in the future to improve that.
So it will be attended to. So Councillor
Then
Smythe,
I'm happy to second
Seconding it.
Councillor Gibbs's.
Councillor Smythe seconds. Does anyone else any questions on the issue? Then I'll put the motion. All in favour? Those in favour? That's carried 6-0. We now have SY 031 of 0325, the York Honours Reference Group. the meeting of the 25th of February 2025 and a review of the terms of reference.
Councillor Smythe's happy to move that recommendation.
Anyone have any questions first? No? Seconder?
Councillor Gibbs, second.
Councillor Gibbs seconded. I'll put the recommendation, which is now the motion. All in favour? That's carried 6-0. Item SY 032 of 0325, the minutes of the annual electors meeting held on the 18th of February 2025. Does anyone have any questions regarding this matter? The minutes are presented. A recommendation is therefore acceptance. Someone prepared to move?
Councillor Smythe's happy to move.
Councillor Smythe.
Councillor Gibbs, seconds.
Councillor Wright is waving his hands. Do you wish to ask a question? No. We haven't voted yet, Councillor Wright. All in favour? Councillor Wright's waving his hands. Thank you. That's carried 6-0. Right, our next item is the financial report. SY 033 of 0325, the financial report for the month of February. Councillor Smythe, you have some questions? Would you like to ask them?
My questions are, the EFT payment of 33472, $626 was an ATO penalty due to an activity statement not being lodged. Can I understand why that had not been lodged on time?
Mr CEO?
Through the Chair, I will hand to the Executive Manager of Corporate and Community to respond.
And through the Chair, as we discussed last week, we had a lot of issues with the ATO and getting the BAS reinstated for new officers. We actually started the proceedings before the last finance manager left, and the ATO just dragged their feet. So eventually we got through to them in writing. They took several months to respond. We now have several officers with authority to act in that space, and that shouldn't happen again. But unfortunately, it was just we were caught up in their process.
Thank you. Any further questions, Councillor Smythe?
On the fuel card list, there was a late payment fee of $58.62.
Mr CEO?
Through the Chair, I'll hand over to the Executive Manager of Corporate and Community Services.
Yes, I'm sorry we didn't respond to that in a timely fashion before today. But yes, so it is a fuel card. It's everyone's vehicles cards. It all comes through in one statement. They give us a very short turnaround time, and simply the signature wasn't provided in time. We're looking to see if we can do that by direct debit so that we don't incur those costs again.
Any further questions, councillors? No further questions. We have a recommendation there. Someone prepared to move?
Councillor Smythe is happy to move.
Seconder? Councillor Wright seconds the motion. Are you all in favour? It's carried 6-0. Thank you, Councillor Wright. Now move on to investments. Item SY 034 of 0325, investments for February 2025.
Councillor Warnick moves.
Any questions, councillors? No. Then Councillor Warnick's moved. Councillor Gibbs seconds. Everyone's in favour? That's carried 6-0. Thank you, councillors. The next item is matters of urgent nature. Motions of which previous notice has been given. There are nil. Questions from members of council without notice? Any? Nil. So the motion now that the council agrees to accept and consider the late report of SY 001 of 0325.
Councillor Smyth's happy to move that recommendation.
Councillor Gibbs seconds that.
Anyone have any questions regarding the item? Oh, hang on, we're accepting as a late item. Okay. All in favour, councillors? Right, thank you. Now we'll get on to the resolution. Councillor, do you have any questions, councillors? Councillor Wright, you had a question? We got them written down?
Excuse me, but we haven't actually moved the item onto the...
Onto the agenda.
No.
So have we got any questions about the item, which is what Councillor Wright's got questions, has he?
Councillor Gibbs speaking. Sorry, because of the confidentiality of this report, it was my understanding the meeting would be closed for this item.
CEO?
As only the attachment is a confidential item, that we don't need to close the meeting for the main report. I don't think we need to bring it up for a question.
So you've got a question on the confidential part of it?
Councillor Gibbs speaking. Yes, I just want to make it very clear that I have questions regarding the confidential report.
Okay.
I won't be able to ask them if we...
Right. Okay, well, the members of the public, you'll have to leave, please.
Can I...
Sorry?
We need to vote.
Yeah. So would someone move that we go into our closed meeting?
I'm happy to move that we
Councillor
close the doors.
Smyth?
Councillor Gibbs seconds that.
Seconds. Me out first. Okay, all those in favour that we close the meeting? Councillor Wright, you're voting? That we close the meeting to the public? Yes. Thank you, Councillor Wright. That's carried 6-0. Right, we'll reopen the meeting to the public.
Councillor Warnick moves that we reopen
Moves.
the
Councillor
meeting to the
Smyth
public.
Seconds. All those in favour?
Councillor Smyth seconds.
Meeting's open to the public. They've all gone home. We no need to read the recommendation. Therefore, I will close the meeting at 6:05 p.m.